shake and tremble as you speak, but what we're not going to do is allow doubt to dismantle your destiny. So many people still present themselves with an apology, with a question mark at the end of it. This felt like an opportunity to actually pronounce myself. And I've waited for God to give me the green light. I keep hearing the words, "You're not done yet." I can just feel it, that it's gonna act as evidence for someone else to eliminate the question mark and add a period at the end of the sentence and move into the story that they're actually meant to tell.
How are you feeling about this moment?
Nervous.
Turn the lipstick around.
Take one.
You want to take a little moment?
Yeah, take a moment. Okay.
Just welcome in all of the truth to come through. Don't hold back. Let it all come forward. Envision that hype video. Envision it playing on your tour. Envision it playing on Netflix.
God, let there be none of me and all of you. Amen. Why am I already about to cry?
Story of my life.
We haven't even started. About to cry. Okay.
It's okay. If the tears come, the tears come, you know?
Could we just bring a water nearby? In case. I have to do noises to clear the channel. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful. So we were chatting upstairs a little bit, and you were saying how like putting this outfit on and hair and makeup and the whole deal feels like this version of you you've wanted to step into. Mm-hmm. How does it feel to be sitting in this chair right now?
You're gonna make me cry. It feels like it was always supposed to be this way. And I used to think, and still can feel a tickle of that my opulence, my fullest expression of wealth was going to hurt people or threaten people or take something away. And this whole year has shown me that my opulence creates a pathway for others. It actually creates more life. It creates more options. It creates more opportunities. And I think as women specifically, and a woman of color, you're told where you can express your wealth and where you can't, and how you can express it and what ways you can express it. And I didn't realize it, but I was taking from all of those borrowed perspectives and forming what was a version of myself that felt still modified, still, even as edgy as it was and as big as it was and as wide as it went, it still felt modified. Like I keep hearing the words, "You're not done yet." There's still so much that my community hasn't seen. There's so much that has yet to be witnessed. And so fully stepping into this name, fully owning who I am and how I want to express myself and the success and the visibility and whatever it is it feels like the beginning and it feels like the end happening at the same time. And it's those moments that I believe we'll remember till the day we die. Like we'll remember those moments when life was ending and life was beginning at the same exact time. And are you awake enough and present enough to witness what's happening in that in between?
And to hold both.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with the significance, like your brand name changing and it being your name, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but what is the significance of that change? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to your community?
When I was going to elementary school, my mom kneeled down in front of me and said, "You're going to be called Tori." My full name's Victoria, but she didn't want anybody to call me Vicky. And I was like, okay. And I was such a good little girl. Like I like pat myself on the back. I never gave my mom any grief. I just followed directions, and I knew what that meant to her. I've already talked to my mom about this, but it never felt like I chose the name. It was like, here's the name you were given, and here's the name you're going to go by. And then I was in church one Sunday, and our pastor said, but what was the name that God gave you? And what was the name that God wants you to live in? Because that name comes with God's vision and God's glory and all the plentiful resources that are going to be needed for you to move forward in your path. And in that moment, I heard Victoria. And in that name, there's more than just Victoria. There's the whole. So it's like living as a fractal and then going into the whole. There's a Tori that survived to get where she is today. And the light goes on and says, I don't have to continue living an identity that helped me survive. There has to be the turning point of who am I that's going to carry the torch? Who am I? Like, what's the part of me that is going to move this forward and redefine what it means to be in relationship with power, to be in relationship with my fire, to be in relationship with my mission? And Victoria is looking at Tori and saying, you don't have to hold it anymore. I've got you. And I'm so proud of you. But Victoria believed for Tori. And Victoria was always going to be on the book. She was always going to be the one telling this story. And she was going to tell it from the lens of liberation, not pain. And so Victoria represents the rapture to riches, the joy, the delight that we don't just get to be rich. We don't just get to be liberated. We get to be joyful. We get to be delighted. We get to let our power tremble beneath our skin. We get to walk with truth. We get to laugh along the way, and we get to have a whole team as our backdrop. And that name, it waited for me. And I'm ready. And I'm so committed to hold it and to let it tell this new story and to turn the page and let a new cycle begin.
So powerful. Yeah, my question is, like, you know, I've been watching you for a couple of years now, and you often talk about speaking from your pleasure and joy versus your pain. Mm-hmm. And I love this transition of fully owning that. Like, and why now? Why now is now the moment to make this, to step into this? What happened in your business and your brand and your journey to make it feel like now?
I'm going to try to say it how I'm getting it, but it's the energy and the feeling of I've been operating as Victoria under Tori, because Tori still had work to do. There was still cycles to complete and chords to cut and visions to cast. And so this may be new for everybody seeing, but I've been in ceremony with her this whole time. And I've waited for God to give me the green light. I always wait for the green light. And I remember growing up, I always saw on my book, Victoria Washington, and I would make a joke that right around the age of 33, I'm going to change my name. And I don't know why I always reference the early 30s felt like this turning point of just a whole new book being written. And I always said that Victoria would be my published name. And everybody asked what would happen to Tori. And all of a sudden this year, when I would see on all our graphics and on our sales pages, Tori, something wasn't clicking, and it needed to be Victoria. And for me, that's scary because I've worked so hard, or I've perceived that I've worked so hard to have my name be recognized and to be a trusted source in my industry and a trusted name that people can reference. And you work hard for that visibility, and you show up consistently, and everything's repetitive so that people can have some sort of muscle memory around your name. When they hear your name, they think of X. And so the nerves in the shift is, what people remember. Like it literally feels like a death of one version so that another one can be born. And
And it is.
It is. And I don't know why now. I just know that I've never felt more surrendered to God's vision. I'm not holding a vision. I'm being held by God's vision. And in that, there's obedience. And there's this moment of, will you submit yourself? Will you give yourself to this mission? And in that, will you give your names? Will you give your comfort zones? Will you give everything you think you should do in whatever timing it is? And it's taken me every day being in that prayer to get to this point of, yeah, I'll give it. And I'll give the resources that have been circulated through me. And I'll give the time, and I'll give the energy, and I'll give up whatever comforts Tori had so that this next version can be born with reverence. And so I just know it has to happen before the end of this year. And it's happening on the cusp of my 33rd year, which is the year of Christ, the year of the holy yes. Like the holy yes. The yes that you will look back on and remember for the rest of your life. The yes that opens up the door to more than your mind could ever comprehend. And so it just feels like right now. And there's only so many weekends in December, and here we go.
Here we go. We're here doing it.
We're here.
And I mean, gosh, this is just so special. It's my 33rd year too. And we're like doing
I
it
didn't know
together.
that.
Yeah. I just turned 33 too.
Oh my God. When is your birthday?
October 4th.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's epic.
Yeah. Which is so special.
Yeah.
And you have such a beautiful relationship with God and are so vocal about it. And I love that. And what do you say to people who are like, I don't know how to use that word. I don't know how to connect to that, or feel potentially triggered by that. Like what do you say to those people who are like, universe feels better to me, your source feels better to me?
At first I used to get triggered hearing that, because I'm like, how do you not get it? And also it's okay. I really don't say anything. I trust that here's what ends up happening 9 times out of 10. They'll start to use it without even realizing it, just being in my presence, because there's a safety. If I feel safe with it and it's not hurting me, and I don't force you to believe or do anything, you're going to feel it. I trust God's power. I trust God's power more than anybody's power. I trust God's word. I trust God's vibration in my throat. I trust God's spirit in my body. I trust God's vision in everything that I do. And so I trust that God's going to send me people that don't know how to say and experience that relationship. Of course. And so I can be judgmental and say, why not? And try to teach them, but that's my righteousness. Or I can meet them where they're at, just like God has done to so many, and trust that in the right time and in the right way for them on their path, it'll click and it'll mean so much more, because then they've come up with their own relationship with God. They're not mimicking or regurgitating a relationship that I told them they should have with God, because I believe it's going to be different for everyone. And a word is just a word. So experience the presence of something bigger than you and tell me it doesn't lead you to God. And in whatever time, it could be 65, 33, who knows? But the creator is the creator, and the creator will always find a way.
Yeah, totally, totally. And it is true. Like the more that you use the word, people will feel safe to use the word. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with the rebrand and with using your full name, envisioning like your community seeing this happening, like what can they expect? What does it mean for them? What can they like kind of anticipate for?
I am creating this to interrupt the coaching industry and deeply wake people up to what they are able to do. I'm going to try to let this come through, because this is a really important question. Nothing's going to change and everything's going to change. You're still going to feel rattled. You're still going to feel inspired. There's initiatives coming this year. There's opportunities for us to look outside the coaching bubble. There's going to be bigger invitations than ever before. There's going to be in-person opportunities, year-long business immersions. There's going to be opportunities to restore your relationship with God if that's the path that you choose. There's going to be sermons and a church built, and like so much is going to happen. That's what they can expect, is big. And what that big is interrupting is all the compartments we've been told to operate within as entrepreneurs of feminine energetics. And then, no, do the masculine structure. No, figure out the Instagram algorithm. No, do over here. And it's all distraction. It's all distracting people from what they're actually meant to say and what they're actually meant to do. So I could have told this story and done this whole thing of, hey, I have a rebrand and here's the cute graphic. But your changes mean something. Your changes tell a story. And I want to show people how you can tell your story could change the world. But we've been so desensitized and we've been so numb, just scrolling, trying to figure out the next hit and the next strategy and the next thing. And I'm uninterested in it anymore. I'm interested in building bridges, breaking paradigms, and creating actual revolutionary change on this planet. I'm interested in expanding our capacity of what we believe is possible. And I'm interested in inviting people to let go of the title coach or trying to perfect the title on top of their Instagram bio. And who is God calling you to be? And how are you being called to receive? And how are you being called to speak and move and rest and become a vital source for humanity? It's not going to be in that app, and it's not going to be in just that one industry. If we continue to do it that way, the coaching industry will just end up like another room that 5% of the population gets, and it circulates wealth for the betterment of a few people, and that's it. But I have a deeper vision for our industry, and I believe that we're here to do more. And if we can't think outside of the box and we can't take the steps to edge ourselves on, and you really reflected that back to me earlier of you're creating this new edge for yourself. But I waited. Why did I wait all year? I watched myself wait. Someone else is gonna take me to the edge. My mentor is gonna take me to the edge. This program's gonna take me to the edge. This investment's for sure gonna take me to the new edge. Making $1 million in less than a year is gonna take me to a new edge. But that's still us waiting on something else to say, hey, you, it's your turn. And that's never gonna happen. It's, here I am, it's my turn. Here's the new edge I'm gonna create to open myself. And that is the whole purpose of this moment, is to interrupt the news feed and interrupt how people are looking at their businesses and how they are running their business and how that business is creating something within humanity.
Yes, to all. Just like deep sigh as someone who operates in the coaching industry, because it's like, rather than trying to plug yourself into a box, you create your own story, your own brand, your own way of teaching, your own way of leading, and what you're talking about, and making your own edge rather than the investment being the edge or the coach being the edge. It's you doing that is the deepest self-leadership and trusting God.
Yeah. Like really asking, how is this message meant to come through? What am I actually meant to move into? The easy path would have been hire a graphic designer, launch the website, and maybe have like a virtual launch party for the new brand. And I've done my new name, and here I am. I could do an Instagram live. But then what? It's for them, but it's also for me. Who do I become with a mic being plugged in, flying humans out, being deeply responsible for their well-being? Like all of this is edging on so much more than just the business. It's who I am, and there's a pronunciation that comes with it. So many people still present themselves with an apology, with a question mark at the end of it. Here I am. Am I? Here's my next thing, kind of. here's the next step. Are you okay with it? Did I do it right? And we're in that loop. And so this felt like an opportunity to actually pronounce myself and pronounce a new aspect of myself. And I can just feel it that it's going to act as evidence for someone else to eliminate the question mark and add a period at the end of the sentence and move into the story that they're actually meant to tell.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Totally. It's just like, I feel like I've heard you say this too before, where it's like, we're not going to be like, how do I get over the self-doubt or the limiting beliefs? It's like, show up on the other side of them now. That's the period at the end of the sentence versus the question mark.
I put on I haven't posted it yet, but I put December's forecast. Shake and tremble as you speak, but what we're not going to do is allow doubt to dismantle your destiny. That's not happening. And you have to decide that. You have to say today and every day thereafter, doubt is not going to dismantle my destiny. Doubt is going to behold and witness my truth. Doubt is going to be in the audience of my biggest vision. It's going to look up and be like, wow, it's going to bow at my feet. But it's never going to go away. We get to decide what position it takes. We get to decide the flavor and the texture of doubt. And the texture in my mouth when I feel doubt is, it's a version of me that I love deeply because she cares and she wants to get it right. She wants to do well, and she's welcome to come, but she's not welcome to dismantle the destiny that is ahead. And I think we each get to make that choice and change the definition of doubt and what it means in our life and how we move.
Like, you can come along for the ride and I love you and I respect you, but you can't drive the car, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we don't respect our doubt, it turns into resentment and we begin to wage a war on ourselves. We have to respect our shadow. We have to respect the teacher within, which is the scarcity, the doubt, the fear. They're all just teachers. They're all just reminding us where we still get to grow. They're keeping us humble. They're keeping us solid and steady. And it's only when we don't have a relationship with those aspects of ourselves that we lose. We're out. Because then we're abandoning. When you go all the way and you get there and there's no doubt, there's no story. There's no you. There's no choice point. There's no prayer. There's no anything. Like, my doubt brings me to my knees and my knees bring me closer to God. So it's all a prayer, and it doesn't have to mean anything besides this is me living.
So for people, I mean, we've gotten a pretty good taste of it so far, but for people who may be new to you, right at the moment of this rebrand, what would you say to them in terms of like how it feels to be in the room with you? How does it feel? How do you make people feel?
People come to me for breakthrough. So that scared me at first, especially because I would be in the story that it would be too much, that people wouldn't get it, or it'd be too much for people. I didn't want to scare people, like real intense. But the fact of the matter is, women specifically come to me when they want breakthrough. They don't need a cheerleader. They don't need someone to tell them how great they are. They already know they're powerful. Because when you walk into the room knowing you're going to break through, you know your power. You avoid breakthrough when you're out of your power. So the women who come to me, they're already powerful. They're successful. They're wise. They're brilliant. They're muses. They're geniuses. But they have zero people in their life to tell them the truth. And I'm somebody who's going to tell you the truth because I'm not afraid of your power. That's why most people get into coaching and mentorship and they feel nothing, because that person doesn't actually know how to hold their power and meet them in that power. Because if they did, they'd tell them the truth. They wouldn't say, oh, that sounds great. Oh, you might just have a limiting belief. Like, let's get to the bones of it. So I'm a catalyst for powerful human beings who are ready for breakthrough. And if you get into the room with me, you're going to lose control. And when you lose control, your body and your mind can finally come into alliance, and you will be blown away by what you can create when those two parts of yourself know how to communicate. And that is, to me, the biggest turning point in leadership, is when your body trusts your mind. And when your mind follows your body, then your power and your alignment no longer fight with each other. Most people fall out of their power because their alignment can't hold it. So it's like working out with weights. If I add weight on and I can't stay into alignment, I hurt myself. The power of that weight has now threatened the alignment. But when I can stay in alignment as the power, the responsibility, the bigness keeps compounding, and I stay steady, then you become unshakable. But every woman's going to go through a breakthrough to get to that point. Somebody's going to have to interrupt her. Somebody's going to have to get in the room with her and tell her the truth and look her in the eye and ask her, where are you pretending? Where do you still hold back? Where is only 50% of your power being felt? And one of my superpowers is I can look at your body and say, right there, what happened in your chest? Why do you still hold a whisper of doubt behind your belly button? And because those little small signals are what people actually feel. So you could say all the cool things and it sounds great, but if you still give off that air because you're holding it, then it's not, it doesn't go all the way. And so when you're in the room with me, we're gonna be in truth. We're gonna be in ceremony with your deepest truth. And most of my students and my clients reflect back to me, and I feel uncomfortable saying this, that they feel God in the room when I speak. And I still don't know why or how. I don't know why. But I've stopped questioning it, and I trust that my voice moves energy in people. I don't know why. It holds something and it cuts through the noise of their cells, and then their body can remember just by me speaking. And so a lot of the time, it's just you moving and let me speak into your body, and then let the body show the mind what's next for you. And if we can just get 10 minutes like that, your whole life could change. And that's just what we do. Body leads, mind follows. we play in that. There's a moment where she'll go into conscious performance. But if her eyes are closed and I can give her cues to let her body show me, then we can get into breakthrough. And sometimes we warm up and it's like, go ahead, let's perform, let's play, let's massage the space, I'll say. And then eventually her guard will come down, and then I'm out of the way and my body's intelligence is communicating with her body's intelligence. And that is, that's revolutionary, because we're taught to keep up an armor. But when you have the armor of God on, you can't unneed each other. God wants to multiply through you. God can only transform in twos. He could start with one, but he's going to blend it with another to create breakthrough, to create life, to create longevity, to create vitality. And so I'm so honored when I get just one person in the room, let alone thousands. Then you realize it's not just you, you're breaking through. I'll often say, move for another woman in this room. Speak. If you can't figure your shit out and you're stuck in your head, do it for somebody who can't move right now. Do it for somebody in your family. Do it for somebody who couldn't even dream of being in a room like this. Because breakthrough is sometimes, for some people, it's a privilege that you're even in a coaching experience. And so that will get her to feel more. And then she comes back to her depth and her source of, wow, if I can move for someone else and I can feel that, what would it be like if I moved for me? And then she'll go down and in and see herself.
Clear the channel. I feel like you just summed up everything that you're doing so well, because there's this commonality between what you provide for other people, getting them in their truth, and you're doing it for yourself right now. Mm-hmm. It's like Victoria's truth, and you're helping people go to the truth of their bodies versus the truth of the coaching industry or whatever other structure that we're trying to plug ourselves into, and you're just going straight to who they are and them believing in themselves and their body communicating that. And I feel like that's how you stick out so much. That's how the breakthrough happens with other people is that moment, and that's what you're doing for you right now.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's such a powerful reflection. And this is so, okay, let's stay right here because there's something that just connected. So I wrote down in the notes section of my phone, so often we try to calibrate to other human beings. And we hear that a lot in the coaching industry. And I believe that that works. Get into close proximity with somebody who has what you want. It's going to rub off on you. You're going to sync it up in your own way and move forward. And I love that. And there's another way I've discovered. And this year, it's calibrate to your expanded self. Calibrate to the depth of source within you. And in that, what I've discovered is what you want is in the room with you right now. But if we're so focused on, let me calibrate to that person and that person, let me get in the room with that person, we miss the depth that's already within, the power that's already within. And all I see when I stay with that teaching, all I see is nature and what the creator has created for us to calibrate to. Like, imagine calibrating to the steadiness of a tree. Imagine calibrating to the orgasm that a leaf can feel when the wind grazes it. Imagine calibrating to the depth that the ocean provides. Imagine calibrating and syncing up with the rain that effortlessly pours into the earth with perfect chaos. Like, imagine that that is already within you and you calibrate to that. And there's so much freedom in that because it's infinite. You don't need to exchange even money for it. It's right in the room with you. But we've been told, bleed your bank account to prove that you're serious about this. And I don't agree with it. To me, it's empty yourself, not your bank account, you, and then show how much you're willing to submit to what's already in the room that's already reflecting back to you richness and abundance and prosperity, and tell me that that doesn't change your life. My biggest breakthroughs have been sitting in silence and watching the clouds, just witnessing what God has already put all around us to sync up with. But we put humans on this pedestal and we say, okay, that person has it. Let me go next to that and I'll do anything to get next to them. And there's chapters where that's helpful, but it's like I'm waving a red flag and I'm like, hold on. And let's not lose sight of the depth. Zach Bush refers to it as the Z access point. So you have Y, X, and then the Z it's vertical. He says, go vertical, which he's really saying is go in. Stand in your expanded state and watch how that perception is showing you what you can calibrate to. So when I think of Victoria, I could have calibrated to somebody else, but I calibrated to her, my fullness, my full expanded self. And every step was going to her, was walking closer to her, not into somebody else's version of what she could be. And that's why this feels so unshakable in my bones, and nobody will be able to take it away because it's mine. But your calibration will always feel like somebody can take it away if you did it for somebody else. It'll always feel like, well, if that person goes, what do I plug into? So what if you became your own source and you went vertical and calibrated to your expanded state? I mean, that's what I want to invite people into. Like, let's play with that.
Yes. The world would heal.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Casual.
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward with this, even preparing for this shoot and like today, it's like, okay, you're going to build the stage before Oprah invites you to speak on it. I remember you said that to me in a Voxer. So
good old Voxer has her whole life plan.
It's a whole vortex. So is that what you see, speaking in front of large crowds of people and hearing them and helping them in that moment, even though there's so many of them in front of you, go in?
Yeah. I mean, I've always seen millions. And the card I pulled today when we were doing the coffee was, she rests to create. And there was in plain letters, you have enough life force energy to hold the vision that you have in your heart. And that's what I see. I see a tour. I see rooms full of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I know that my voice is sharp enough to cut straight to the back row. I know that every human in that room will feel it. And when the whole room can feel it, there's a reverberation that bellows out, and even the most stiff body in that room will exhale and soften and be in it. And so I see myself creating experiences where 1 hour changes your life. Like, to me, that's so exciting that in 1 hour, everything could change. Like, that's how I feel every time I get on a coaching call right now. I say, I have 45 minutes with this woman. In 45 minutes, her life could change. Like, that could feel like pressure and contract me, but it feels like an expanded responsibility that I'm so up for. And I've watched it happen on phone calls with the hundreds of clients I've worked with. I've watched it happen in masterclasses with 1,000, 2,000 people. I've watched it happen in wealth embodiment flow. And we're ready to go in person. We're ready to make a statement and reconnect people to the bigness that they are. And I just see it. They're already there. They've always been there. And I'm a firm believer that God will give you as many as you're meant to hold in that moment. So while I see millions, I never question what's in the room. So even if there's only 30, those 30 represent the million. They always have and they always will. So you show up with that reverence, and step by step, everybody you're meant to impact gets impacted. Because who knows, that one person in the room could be, because I remember who impacted me. Did they think I'd be sitting here? Did they think that I would be doing what I'm doing? But if they looked at me any less than how they did in that moment, I don't know that I'd be sitting in this chair. So I take that with me every room, even this room. There's 10 of us. And so I hold that as we right now represent the millions that are going to hear this and be impacted later. And we don't know. Maybe we look 10 years later. I remember being in that house with Tori, who was changing her name to her original name, Victoria. And I remember, like, I think of that all the time, of even in my free masterclasses or even in House of We, the money membership. I'm like, what if House of We does go on tour and we get on Oprah's stage, and then each of you remember when we used to do it on Zoom and there was 20 people? Like, that excites me, holding that memory of, do you remember when? Because I remember when I was sleeping on my friend's couch. I remember when I filed bankruptcy. I remember when I had no idea what I was doing. But I also remember this moment, and it's happening right now. Like, what? That's so cool.
It's so cool. It's life. It's being alive.
It's all right now. Yeah.
I have one final question, and we can plug in anything else you're feeling we're missing. But do you consistently check in and give yourself permission to understand how important your work is?
Ooh. No and yes. So I actually seek out opportunities for people to reflect back to me the impact, because I don't always see it. Even though it's so obvious to other people, I'm so in it. I'm so on it. I'm like standing on it that I can't see it all the time. So whenever somebody writes to me or even gives me testimonials or reflect back something to me after a class, I screenshot it right away, because I have to pause and feel it and really understand what she just said to me. Because I'm just in it. It's just like breathing. It's, how could I not do this? I don't know any other way right now than this. And so I think that it's important for me to always remember how to receive that message so I can understand what this work is doing. In the same breath, I love not always knowing, because it keeps me moving. And it allows the responsibility to be ushered through me, and I just continue to move. I bet if God had shown me exactly how big it was going to be, I'd be like, okay, hold on. Let me prepare. Let me get things perfect. Let me do this. So there's a part of me that likes to play in that field of, we're just going and it's okay. And then there's also that part of me, like at the end of this weekend, I'll sit down and I'll read and just let it hit me, and I'll cry and I'll let it shake me, and I'll just be like, holy crap. Whoa. Like, bloodlines. Mothers and daughters are doing the flow together. Women in Sri Lanka are telling me that they can breathe again. Like, these are not just testimonials of, oh, I made $1,000, my first $1,000, I'm making more money. Like, we get those, but we also are getting these huge testimonies of, like, life is in my lungs again. I believe in God again. I'm working on behalf of something bigger that I never knew existed. It freaks me out. So I dip into that, and I need that there to remind me of what's happening and keep me alert. And I'm a human, and I get to be human. So I also keep that in a little folder, and I just got to keep moving and trust the ripples that are happening. So a little bit of both. Like I like to have it there. And I always say, I'm not going to know the end of this ripple, and I'm absolutely okay with it. Like, I want it to be so big that I can't even perceive the end of it. So when I get those testimonies, or even my sister, who is the biggest testimony, I mean, she's my blood, I will never see the end of it. Like, Malachi is going to have kids, and they're going to have kids. They'll reference me one day. I'll never, and I might be here, I might not. And I think that that's such an interesting landscape to play in. Like, are you willing to play blindfolded at times and not always be able to see where the ending is going to be? So I don't look at impact as a destination. I look at it as an everyday collision. I'm colliding into you. If you look at the dictionary definition of impact, it's a collision. It's when two things come in contact and an explosion happens. But so many humans are focused on influence. And influence is like, yeah, let's shake hands and we'll remember each other. But impact shakes you. And so many people aren't willing to interrupt, collide, like create that bigness. And so always being in that context, I get to be reminded sometimes. And I also think it's helpful for me to be okay with never seeing the end and just being wildly convicted to as many humans are liberated in my lifetime as possible. Because when they're liberated, I'm liberated. And I think that's why so many people are afraid of being rich, is because are you okay with being rich, knowing that in your lifetime, everybody's not gonna be rich? Like, it's this polarity that you learn to hold. But for me, I find peace in my opulence creates a pathway for as many humans as possible. And me becoming rich doesn't make me the oppressor. Me becoming opulent doesn't make me the oppressor. It expands my impact. It allows for more to be occurred through me and in my life. And I really had to switch that on, because you'll watch yourself go back and forth between, is it okay to be this big and who's being left behind, to it's okay to be this big and everybody gets to come, but they get to choose to come. And it breaks my heart that not everybody will. That's the hardest part. So the impact is holding both of those, knowing that you're never going to see the end, having a folder on those days where you need to remember who the fuck you are, reading them out loud and letting it tremble and shake you into the next moment. And that's what we do. That's what we do. What did I just say? I feel like I didn't say anything.
There is a new truth erupting, and I'm inviting us all to speak this into existence.
I've arrived in a state of plentiful peace. I'm giving more, I'm receiving more, I'm moving and I'm resting. There's speed and there's steadiness. I'm in no rush, yet it's all happening faster than I could have ever imagined.
I see us remembering that we hold the Spirit of God within our bones. I see us feeling the wind pick up, and I see us declaring that this is our new reality. Our next evolution is here.
This is the medium one. I can bring the big guy if needed.
Bring the big guy, Rachel.
Bring the sun. Let's have you come. So it starts with back there and back there. Oh, yeah. John, can you look at this ring? Just in front we hit that we shot this, her in the back.
I wasn't sure about the shoulders,
No, the shoulders work.
but they were the ones you took
especially
all
with that
down.
hair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. I am so like bottom.
Okay, girl.
I'm scared. What if I fell in this pool right now?
I don't know what to do. We're gonna miss after this. Good to see you too, honey. What's up? We out here. I want to get one.
There you go. Just shake your head a little bit forward. There you go. Yeah.
That's a wrap, baby!